Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Life from the Inside Out with Kris. Before we begin with Kris's unparalleled metaphysical content, I know that many of you watching have felt a sense of being ungrounded, unhinged, or out of balance in these times. I know. I've felt this way too. Kris's teachings have similarities to popular ideas such as the law of attraction and the secret. The difference is that Kris's knowledge goes even deeper into reality creation and helps resolve many of the problems identified with the law of attraction. The information he shares helps restore grounding and that sense of balance that many of us have lost in these times. If you're ready for the law of attraction and secret 2.0 and want to be a part of this fantastic community, then hit that like button, subscribe, drop a comment below, and press the bell icon so that you get notified when Kris releases cool, new metaphysical content. Kris also offers life-changing online seminars, private sessions, and mentoring sessions, which are all linked in the description below. Glad you're here with us, and let's jump into it. And welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Life from the Inside Out with Kris. And last episode, we had a really interesting discussion. We were talking about the idea of ancient aliens and what are they really, and what are our own interconnections to those, as well as some of perhaps even how these could flow over into an afterlife or a dreamtime experience, and what that's all about. And I think we left a few cliffhangers too that I'm sure people are interested in. And Kris is back with us. We'll deepen the discussion.
Indeed. As we mentioned earlier, the aliens themselves did not necessarily build structures like your pyramids, because there is ample evidence throughout that part of the world and around the world at that particular level of many similar types of structures, which would indicate a rather large global civilization or civilizations that spanned the globe with very similar approaches, their structures being very similar and sometimes slightly altered. The manner in which aliens may have been involved is rather to spark your own creativity, to give inspiration. And some of your own human travelers who might have visited these other realities would have brought back certain perceptions, certain things they've seen, and inspired others with great visions of magnificent structures that may have had multiple purposes. They were not only temples for the high priests or the pharaohs or the rulers or the gods or the means to reach the heavens, as much as they left information that would have challenged the ideas of reality itself. And by this we mean that everything that you perceive is symbolic. Everything. For instance, the backdrop behind you, Daniel, is of course not real. It symbolizes a bookshelf. It is a symbol for a bookshelf. It looks like one, but is not one. You interpret the objects, the people, the situations, the events, the conditions of your dreams as symbolic. And if you were to apply the same process to what you perceive with your senses, you would get a rather different interpretation than the usual ones. You would see your world for what it is, not just an illusion, but it is symbolic of energy structures. It is symbolic of the combination and recombination of thoughts, of energy. Energy. This is what your world is made of. Energy. You combine it and recombine it in different ways according to your perceptions. This is how you build your worlds. And these ancient structures strewn all across the planet from ancient times, pre-flood times, also are symbolic. They want to teach you, those objects want to teach you about energy. The same energy that exists in your atmosphere, what you call electricity, lightning, which is the very same kind of electricity that exists, though on a smaller scale, that exists between your synapses, that allows the flow of communication from the nerve endings from all parts of your body into the brain and back. This too is measurable electric current, a form of electricity. It keeps your heart going. It allows the rods and cones in your eyes to interpret energy into form. Cars, houses, people, dinner, the desk, the computer. All of that is an energy, and that energy is in itself an aspect of the function of thought and man, or we should say humankind. That interaction, that interface, is where you create your world in the moment. It is a coming together of literally spiritual and biological intent. And your species loves to work in this way. That is what you do most beautifully. Just like a beaver builds dams and a bee makes honey. You create reality. This is how you create it. And all of these ancient artifacts throughout the world, in one manner of speaking, are not ancient at all. They may even be futuristic. But you have no way of actually tapping into the future development of your species, except by leaving these kinds of Hansel and Gretel breadcrumbs. You question, is this created by aliens? Is this created by pre-flood civilizations? What kind of human did this? How did humans become what they are? All of the paraphernalia of the physical world, the consensus reality, is in itself a symbol for your own greater creative abilities. You get swept away with the notions that somehow or other you are going to be poor, you are going to be conquered, you are going to be punished. There is karma to be paid, and this and that and that. And throughout all of this, you lose sight of the fact that if you can create all of your worries everything you worry about, you can just as easily, magnificently turn the situation around and create for yourselves the kind of civilization that you want. Right now, you are more or less, for the sake of the word, you are creating a civilization by default. You are creating it simply out of your fears and worries, not out of your greatest aspiration. You want to conquer the stars. You want to fly into other solar systems. And yet, you still tinker with the ideas of poverty, starvation, lack of resources. The ideas of those things are then projected outwardly. So they come to symbolize what your fears are. And if you can externally symbolize your own fears, imagine how your world would be so easily transformed if you can also symbolize your greatest accomplishments, your greatest joys, your greatest aspirations. And this is what needs to be questioned. And all of these ancient cultures, these ancient beings and so-called aliens are meant. You create them to invite questions about the reality and about reality first and foremost. How can you change your world? Change the nature of what you entertain in your mind, what you entertain in your imagination, what you entertain in your feelings, what you entertain in your emotions. Change the kinds of beliefs you have and expect the new beliefs to become the reality. And you will have a very much different world. In the meantime, you might still question the nature of ancient cultures, ancient civilizations, ancient aliens, or even modern ones. And they will still symbolize your own nature. You may think as a species that you know yourselves very well. And we would posit the contrary. You can know yourselves to be much more than what you are now. In fact, you can know yourselves as more than the sum of all of your parts by questioning the nature of what you entertain in here, first and foremost. Some people, in fact, many people, have had so-called visitations by alien beings who have encouraged an examination and a probing, not of your orifices. None of them really care about your orifices, but to examine and probe the nature of the very thoughts that you entertain, that literally causes or creates the camouflage system within which you have your being. Most people are familiar with the idea of a holographic environment. In a manner of speaking, you do exist in a holographic type of system of reality, one that is projected from your minds outwardly. If you change the programming of the holographic projection, you get a different kind of holographic projection, one that may be more to your liking. This is something that ancient beings including aliens in that respect, at least in the way you understand it, are aware of. Some of them are able to project a slightly different program over your own programming in order to show you the capacities and capabilities of your species. But you very quickly forget about it when you wake up in the morning. You return to your woes instead of returning literally as being able to transform your lives from that very moment. But your species also has the same capabilities, projecting some of the programming so that you can visit other systems of realities. And the intention here is to learn, to assist in the transformation of the mass consciousness. Not that any one individual is meant to help transform mass consciousness or quote unquote save it. There are no saviors in that way. But at least you get an inkling of what is possible. And when that reaches a certain threshold, there will be more and more awakenings. This shift that is spoken of, we have addressed this as well in the past, has to do with just that very thing, to change the program, to know that you have the ability to change the program so that you can transform your existence. And the sweet part of all of this is this knowledge is not new. You have this knowledge. It sits waiting at the back door of your consciousness where the news has been piling up for some time. But you ignore the knock at the back door that says, look, there is some really good news at the back here. Why don't you look at it? Do you follow?
Yeah, and the one thing that was really fascinating earlier, maybe connecting things, is that, the shift is that you're talking about is really a shift in energies, a shift in how we're perceiving our own energies. And
Yes.
mhm.
If the shift and the shifting itself appears to be a Herculean task, it is not the shift that is doing that. You are doing that. Your species is making it more difficult for itself. Because it is simply a matter of shifting your perceptions in alignment with the ancient wisdom and knowledge that already courses through your veins, that already exists in your so-called subconscious, in your psyche. All the blueprints for it are there. It has nothing to do with meditating, hearing sounds, and activating your chromosomes or your third or fifth or 15th dimensional DNA. It has to do with actually acknowledging and accepting the responsibilities for what you do now so that you can then implement what you want. That is why, in many instances, it appears that so-called more liberal societies are having a backlash, a threat, almost an existential threat. Because you still hold on to the dredges of old belief systems while wanting to move forward into new belief systems. Like as if Windows 11 might not be enough for you, so you drag along Windows 3.5, just in case, knowing full well it is incompatible. But you are thinking, You never know. That other shoe might drop and we might need Windows 3.5 again. Does that make some weird sense to you?
No, I follow you completely, Kris. It was bringing up a dream that I had. I don't remember all the context, but I remember dreaming of a bridge, and it had to do with my own personal shift in ideas. And the idea of the dream was that I was using bridge beliefs to move from one set from another. And there was a bridge set of beliefs that maybe blended where I wanted to go and where I was. And the idea of the dream, it was saying, okay, it's time to cross the bridge and to drop these bridging beliefs. And I was wondering if that is maybe analogous to where we're at in the
Indeed.
shifting process.
Indeed, you're not the only one to have the symbols of dreams in bridges. Joseph has had a few. And if there were, we will say, better founded or more interesting dream exchanges, groups of individuals who share dreams without reverting to using basic interpretation methods about dream symbols and understanding the nature of symbols and dreams and symbols in physical consensus reality, you would be astounded, literally gobsmacked, with the number of people who have similar symbols and dreams, whether they are bridges, forks in the roads, changes in modes of transportation, so many others. They are abundant, but very few people, especially now, actually pay attention to their dreams. In the 90s, late 90s, early 2000s, there was still vivid interest until the idea of the so-called conscious creation came on the scene. Things like The Secret, and this is a criticism, as if all you had to do was think pretty thoughts and all the riches in the world would come to you. So forget about your dreams. They don't really mean anything. What you really want as meaningful in your life is a big bank account, a wife with a better figure, a bigger car, a better job. That is what became more important than the exploration of the inner life. Now, if there were such dream groups, people would corroborate. There would be a significant uptick of more symbols appearing in the dreams, because dreams appear in layers. Not just multiple dreams occurring simultaneously, but multiple dreams with multiple layers. The symbolism's getting deeper and deeper as you peel off the coverings. You study the symbolism only to realize there might be another layer of symbolism behind this one. And behind that one, there's another layer of symbolism. And you cannot necessarily fathom how many layers there are, but you can become inspired to know that each layer adds transformation and adds fuel to that transformation. And that should be exciting. It should not be considered a chore, but an exciting revelation that you have a rich inner life. You spend 1/3 of your life approximately in dream states. Why not take advantage of this great resource and transform the other 2/3? Because the other 2/3 actually depend upon the 1/3. It is the foundation. And even through different dream layers, You might encounter what at first might seem like alien cultures to you, but they are cultures and civilizations of your own psyche. All the civilizations in your world, there are so many you may not be able to understand or grasp it, but they all represent different cultures that exist within your psyche, different versions or variations, for instance, on the theme of Daniel, because you could say you are a theme, and there are many, many other themes you are not aware of. Does this all make sense to you?
Yep, it sure does. And I think the interesting thing is, if more people were looking at those particular dreams, I know in the case of that one, it was such a huge and helpful insight. If I wasn't paying attention to it, it just, I don't know, I maybe would have picked it up some other way or something, but it really helped me move forward. So yeah, it's very, very useful
Indeed.
information. Very practical too.
The practicality of dreams outstrips any hesitations or fears you may have about dreams. And for instance, for many months, perhaps even years, Joseph would take his car to a particular location he has never been at physically, but it is a definite dream location. Sometimes he would forget where the car was parked, but never where the location was. And that particular location has to do with certain areas of insights into his own psyche that eventually brought him a great deal of resources and understanding about who and what he is. And this was all acquired specifically in dream states. There have been other instances where Joseph has attended large universities in the dream states. These so-called learning centers. These universities are just that. They are. They symbolize a learning center within one's own psyche, where one goes to exchange and communicate information during the sleep state, because it is much easier to do so when you do not get in your own way. If this were to occur whilst you were sleeping or awake, you would shut down the process because it might interfere with your work, your family life, and your this and your that. But whilst you are sleeping, you literally sneak out of yourself and have fun. So we are all for that kind of sneaking out. Just like the teenager, sometimes grounded by the parent, will late at night open the window and sneak out of the house, go have some fun and come back. Now then, and perhaps this is a good time to thank you for your consideration and return Joseph to you.
All right. Sounds like a plan, Kris, and thank you.
Indeed. And to all those who will be viewing this particular recording, may you too learn how to sneak out of your old self, explore new inner territory, and come back to brighten up your life. Now, we should also mention everything we've discussed concerning dreams, again, is not a recent development. Your species have been using dream states before you became a human species, before you took the kind of corporeal form that you eventually evolved into. You experimented, you traveled the dream dimensions, dream destinations. You worked out all of the kinds of logistics necessary to create the kind of existence you developed, and it is still in development. It is not like a factory process, and at the end of the line, there is this finished product. It is still evolving, but not in your Darwinian sense. There are still other things at work. So we just wanted to add that because dreams themselves are a reality you ignore. You think the physical reality is the epitome of existence. In truth, it is a projection from the dream state. So it is a variation on the theme, just as there are variations of Daniel in other realities. Your consensus physical reality is a variation on dream states as well. Happy dreaming.
Some food for thought, Kris. Thank you. Thanks for watching, and if you would like to leave a question for Kris, drop it in the comments below. Myself, Serge, or someone from the Kris team will be checking and may use them to drive the discussion, put them in future episodes. So if you'd like to interact with the Kris community, feel free. Put your questions below, and we'd love to hear from you, and see you again next time.